Hello everyone, and welcome to a video that I've been excited to drop for honestly the past month, even though it has taken me only a few days to work on this video. Now, I know I took a month off of content creation, and I don't know how consistent I will be, especially that I have no idea when any sort of RE news will drop, or even about the rumored PlayStation State of Play event happening next month or this month. Depends when I drop this video. But either way, I have to get these videos out before the reveal of RE9, whenever that will be. So for this video, I will be talking about the organization that once made its life goal to stop bioterrorism, to now becoming rotten and the thing they swore to destroy. But ultimately, how did things transpire to make them do what they did? We will be talking about the foundation of the organization, its history, but more importantly, the shady things they have done. The BSAA was formed soon after the collapse of Umbrella Pharmaceuticals after it was bankrupted by the Raccoon Trials verdict. The company was a major developer of biological weaponry, as we all know, running against the 1972 Bioweapons Convention and its chief sponsor. The United States turned against it following the 1998 Raccoon City destruction incident. In its final years, Umbrella personnel began selling prototype bioweapons to criminal syndicates and terrorist groups, largely from a facility in the Caucasus which was shut down in February 2003 that happened in Resident Evil: The Umbrella Chronicles. The early BSAA had no actual powers, and although it started from 11 members with experience in fighting BOWs and bioterrorists, it was generally acknowledged as an NGO with observer status, and required permission from the host country to assist. Under the leadership of Clive R. O'Brien, the BSAA saw a sizable increase from its original 11-person strength. In 2004, the BSAA participated in the Terragrigia panic, where a radicalized fraternal group, Veltro, attacked the Mediterranean city with hunter BOWs. Due to certain constitutional quirks, the defense of the city from bioterrorism was limited under the jurisdiction of the United States, which established the FBC as a counter-bioterrorist organization. With the US unwilling to allow the BSAA anything over than observer status, they couldn't do anything to prevent the collapse of the FBC's mission and their abandonment in favor of destroying the city. In the following year, the BSAA and FBC were caught between conspiracies and counter-conspiracies masterminded by their leaders, with moles planted in each group. O'Brien's mole had suspicions that FBC Commissioner Morgan Lansdale was involved in the attack and became aware about an FBC mission to the Queen Zenobia, a ship used in the Terragrigia panic by Veltro, which disappeared from the attack. O'Brien illegally armed a terrorist group active in Finland as a means of distracting the FBC, while another team infiltrated the ship. On the following day, the FBC got word about the conspiracy and a team was sent to the UK to arrest the entire organization for supporting Veltro. The situation was soon after reversed when footage of Lansdale negotiating the sale of T-Abyss and BOWs to Veltro's leader Jack Norman was transmitted back to HQ from two agents still out on the field, that being Chris Redfield and Jill Valentine. In the aftermath of this event, Lansdale himself was imprisoned and the FBC was disbanded in disgrace. O'Brien himself was forced to resign to save the BSAA. By late 2005, the company was taken over by the United Nations, having realized the serious flaw in nations refusing any assistance in countering bioterrorism. Its UN-sanctioned status presented the BSAA with powers to engage with terrorists and detain them in any country around the world. And the control of the BSAA was itself divided between regional commands to better suit the logistics required for a worldwide force. They took a setback in 2006, however, after the events of the Spencer estate, losing one of the founding members, Jill Valentine, being presumed dead. She was revealed to be alive under the control of Albert Wesker and the P-30 device on her chest, but was later saved by her former partner Chris and Sheva Alomar. Those two would pursue Excelligione and Wesker and ultimately take them down. In the aftermath of the incident, Tricel's association with BOWs was made public and the company soon after collapsed with Tricel Inc. Africa's headquarters being attacked by terrorists and its staff infected with the T-virus strain, while Wesker's death was a powerful hit to the black market. It was soon after replaced with other producers, obviously. Chris himself changed his work as an SOU captain and took part in the training of new recruits. Now, I was really trying to dig deep into the events of what happened soon after, and you'll understand why with CN Island. In 2011, the BSAA's European branch was alerted to an island-spanning biohazard which took place on CN Island. The island was a Soviet relic which endured an economic collapse during the collapse of the Soviet Union, and was preyed on by Umbrella employee Alex Wesker for a decade starting in 2000. The island became the site of inhuman research into T-Phobos, a virus engineered to implant a copy of Wesker's conscious mind into the brains of successful candidates, but saw the deaths of perhaps thousands during its prototype stages. The BSAA was alerted by Claire Redfield, a TerraSafe member and the younger sister of Chris, who was abducted on Wesker's behalf to complete the project. The flow of the information was slow, and after 6 months, the European branch was finally ready to begin its assault on the island. Ahead of this assault, Barry Burton landed by boat alone to rescue his daughter Moira. He succeeded and took part in killing of Wesker and the rescue of Natalia Korda, a Terragrigian child who was a successful test subject. As the three left the island by helicopter, a large BSAA force landed to destroy the revenant BOWs that took over. Now you're probably asking, why do you think this is all suspicious to begin with? Let me explain. The way they tell us about how long it took the information to reach the BSAA was really weird, and the reasoning was very vague to say the least. I tried looking through multiple sites to find out why it took so long for that information to get sent fully, and the only reason as to why that happened was because the distress signal was jammed by Alex, which of course it was, but when everything got destroyed and Alex shot herself, why did it take 6 months? You would think it would begin being sent off. When Barry was arriving to the island, he had the recording in hand, and the BSAA was planning an attack, but Barry went by himself earlier. Another thing I found was that they had the signal with them the whole time, and Barry just randomly discovered, which I don't think is true, because if so, shit would have hit the fan with Barry and especially Chris, who was off doing his own thing. He knows Claire can handle it herself, but you know, big brother mentality kicks in. So again, it feels weird, but I might be blowing things out of proportion. I'm just going to briefly go over what was going on in RE6 as well and the aftermath of that game. Throughout the Lanshiyang attacks, tens and thousands of civilians died, and the incident was also perhaps the single most devastating operation for the BSAA, having suffered presumably at least hundreds of casualties amongst their SOU operators. These losses caused the BSAA to reevaluate their response protocols, realizing a need to further operations beyond just rapid response. Lanshiyang was left to slowly recover from its immense losses. After Jake Mueller's blood was used to make a C-virus vaccine, the BSAA realized his importance in combating bioterrorism and hid his relationship with Albert Wesker to protect him from Wesker's enemy. BSAA spies continued to monitor Mueller in case his blood was needed again. The severely crippled BSAA struggled to rid the city of surviving zombies, and by 2015 had resorted to simply quarantining infested sections of the city and leaving the local People's Liberation Army contingent in charge of them. So things were happening here and there, and usual stuff like the events of Resident Evil Death Island and Vendetta, but this is where things take the turn officially. The BSAA at some point had become aware of the existence of E001, an E-type fungal BOW, otherwise known as Eveline, who was developed in the early 2000s by the crime syndicate The Connections, founded by Brandon Bailey. Bailey, a former Umbrella virologist and protege of corporation co-founder Dr. James Marcus, was instrumental in the development of the corporation, especially in West Africa, from the 1960s through the 1980s. Eveline was considered a serious enough threat to warrant her destruction as soon as possible. In early 2014, the BSAA received intel that the Connections were planning to transfer Eveline and several D-type subjects from their research facility in Munich, Germany, to another in Central America. A team was dispatched to capture and terminate Eveline, but for whatever reason, they failed. Eveline, her handlers Mia and Alan, and the D-types boarded the LNG carrier Annabelle, which soon departed. This failure on the part of the BSAA would eventually lead to the Baker House incident. Again, vague explanations. I tried looking through multiple Resident Evil 7 game files to see what truly happened and how the BSAA fumbled the opportunity, but nothing showed up. The BSAA then began working on a full cover-up of the entire incident. First, they worked with the Louisiana Army National Guard to cordon off the general area and guard it from the public. This exclusion zone was expected to last until at least 2027. They also met with the Dolby Parish Sheriff's Office to discuss how to explain the incident to the public. It was ultimately passed off as a toxic hydrogen sulfide leak, which claimed the lives of the victims involved. Despite public, media, and even academic skepticism and scrutiny over this explanation, coupled with reported sightings and images of various entities involved with the incident, most notably Eveline's giant monster form, this was all brushed off as conspiracy theories and nonsense, and public attention slowly faded away. Zoe Baker would eventually be released from quarantine under the condition that she not reveal anything about the incident publicly, and given a new identity as a reporter in New Orleans, eventually beginning her own investigation into the incident and related events. With an internal investigation concluding that the BSAA themselves were at fault for the entire incident due to their slip-up in Munich, the cover-up was done in an attempt to save face. However, the internal morale of the organization was now heavily degraded, and a profoundly disgusted Chris Redfield began to become more distrustful and critical from it from then on. After the events of Resident Evil Village, the Hound Wolf Squad was ultimately the last group to evacuate the valley following the elimination of Mother Miranda and the Black God. With one of the BSAA soldiers in their helicopter, they discovered the soldier was in fact a BOW, revealing the BSAA soldiers to be engineered mutants and raising questions about the BSAA's decision to utilize such weaponry. Chris orders his team to head for the BSAA European HQ to get answers. Now, it was revealed later on in, I believe, a Resident Evil YouTube video that the BOW mutant was a clone of Chris. But there is something I didn't mention before for Resident Evil 8.
What the hell?
All jokes aside, I always wondered how Heisenberg knew about the BSAA showing up to the village. Was it because they kidnapped Mia and they anticipated them showing up, or is it that Chris was going to show up eventually? Because Heisenberg does know about the boulder punch. This may be something already known about and or blowing out of proportion again, but I can't lie, it's really fun to not theorize and speculate. The thing that makes this entirely weird is that, where is Jill in all of this? She was brought back in 2015, but since then, nothing has happened with her. And we don't know where she stands in all this in terms of the Munich slip-up and the attempted cover-up in Louisiana. Which is why, if RE9 is about this plot, which it should be like a trilogy in my opinion, Jill should have a key role. Now, we've all speculated about who could be behind the BSAA using clones, and I think someone took over that wasn't to be expected. To thinking that they were making BOW clones of Chris behind his back is legit terrifying, and also insane due to Chris being one of the founding members. Sure, people can say it's a fight fire with fire situation, but there's gotta be bigger reasonings behind it. Which is why Alex Wesker is most likely the main candidate for it. The BSAA was responsible for Albert's death. They were responsible for the destruction of Alex's work in Cian Island. Barry was working for them when he took her down. Sure, TerraSave can be involved too, but the bigger plot and move story-wise would be about Chris and the entirety of the BSAA. I want the Munich slip-up to be explained and we know about the Louisiana cover-up. It's just what exactly happened there. If they do what they were supposed to do, RE7 and RE8 don't happen with Ethan. That's the one singular event that changed everything. So let me know in the comments as to who you think is behind the BSAA using these clone-like BOWs. If I made a video very similar to this in the past, then I apologize, but this is something I'm super intrigued about, and if this is the story, I'm really excited for what can happen. Also, what do you guys think exactly happened in Munich as well? If you enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like and hit that subscribe button for more RE content like this in the near future, and I'll catch you guys in my next video. Peace out, and much love.